Every great hero has a great villain. We all have our favorites, and for good reasons. Backstory, personality, appearance, or maybe even their measure of power. But one overlooked aspect I think that makes a villain that much better is the music associated with them. Now, I'm not talking about the theme, I'm just talking about the music associated with the character. I don't want anyone arguing with me about how Darth Maul's theme isn't actually Darth Maul's theme. It's just Duel of Fates. But come on! It's hard not to think about this wasted character without hearing. After rewatching Kung Fu Panda 3 a few months ago, I fell in love with the villain Kai, and I really don't feel like there's anything special about him. He is the over-the-top, most powerful villain Po has ever faced, because that's what you need to do for sequels, raise the stakes. For me, Kai had something about him that I couldn't pinpoint, until I researched him a bit. I found out that Kai is the only villain out of the 3 movies with an apparent theme, or literal written one, in the score. And after reading that, I took a second to think about the other 2 villains who came before in each of the movies, and I couldn't remember either one. I got confused because I knew that the other movies were fantastic, but the only thing I could remember was Po becoming the Dragon Warrior and
nothing. Huh?
So I decided to look into this theme association idea more. For a second, I did decide to do a little research in the sciencey part of the internet. So I first looked into how the brain directly works with memory and how the nostalgic factor plays a big part of the blah 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 blah. Yeah, there's too much stuff to read and I didn't want to go into it. I did catch a thing or two. Autobiographical memory. To put it simply, it's like if all of us carried a book that represents our memories, but we don't have access to certain chapters in that book. Unless we see, smell, hear, touch, or taste something that gives us access back into that chapter. The term for this process is called blank-evoked autobiographical memory. That blank being an idea that tests one of those senses. The most researched out of these is odor-evoked autobiographical memory and music-evoked autobiographical memories. This is why when you pass the perfume section at the mall and get a whiff of your ex-girlfriend's favorite perfume, you immediately burst into tears because you've just been reminded of the best/worst time of your entire life. This is also why when you hear you don't think of your teacher walking down the aisle of your classroom, getting ready to grade your papers. You think of one of the most iconic villains of all time. Let's take a closer look at him, though. If you haven't got it from that, most of Darth Vader's power is evoked from the music played. When you look at him alone, he's a very glossy, suited old guy with a breathing problem. Looks almost immobile because of his suit and not even be able to turn his head without the rest of his body, a long cape that he's likely to trip on in battle, and a control panel on his chest that does... Regardless, paired with his deep voice,
That's it.
His actions throughout the movie of choking his colleagues, and even killing his old master Obi-Wan. His music is what makes him the villain we know and love. John Williams is a genius at making themes. If John Williams can make this awesome, imagine what he could do with this. John has been known to say that sometimes the simplest ideas are often the most compelling, and the greatness of the Jaws theme is its simplicity. First, you have 2 low notes conveying the idea of a large threat. Then you have those 2 notes come closer together, gaining speed as the theme continues, conveying the idea that this threat is getting closer to you. And to top that off, the theme crescendos, getting louder to add intensity to the overall theme. Altogether, you don't have a theme that just scares the viewer for a few seconds, you have a theme that creates anxiety and tension, making this whole scene and villain more memorable. It's easy to scare the audience with a quick jump scare and loud noises that last mere seconds, especially nowadays. They are the usual cheap shot when it comes to horror movies. It doesn't add anything to the villain, except for a short moment, and the tension building usually isn't as strong. But a theme like Jaws means so much more to a villain like a shark because it builds that tension over long periods of time. And even after that moment the theme climaxes, the attack happens, it continues being loud, and we can't help but watch while the horrific scene plays out. Lastly, let's talk about the Kung Fu Panda movies. After rewatching them, I have to say these are some great villains. Tai Lung is good because you can sympathize with him. He spent most of his life training to become the Dragon Warrior, but was ultimately rejected by his master because the Dragon Warrior was predetermined. That sparked the anger that turned him into the villain in the end of the movie. Then there's Lord Shen, who was given a fortune that he would be defeated by a panda if he tried to rule China. So he eliminated the possibility of that happening by killing off the pandas. Po survived but can't remember his past. Because of this, Po can't find inner peace, which is the next step of his training, making Shen a great villain personally for Po. Then lastly, we have Kai, probably the weakest out of the three in backstory and somewhat in character development too. I mean, his character is literally played down as being forgettable to everyone except Po, and his overwhelmingly unstoppable power just doesn't seem to make sense except that he's from the spirit realm. His power being that he takes other people's powers and turns them into jade zombies to create an army. But when you put the theme like this to him, you have someone that evokes more power than the other two just by appearing in the world. Hans Zimmer's theme for Kai is similar to John Williams' theme for Jaws, following the same concept of simplicity. He plays the theme faster, slower, louder, and softer. Depending on where you are in the film and what's happening on screen, you can use the same theme in so many different ways and still represent the same character, the whole time using 3 notes. The theme is played slow when walking in, emphasizing how big and strong he is. The theme is played fast while fighting, showing how agile and quick his movements are. Listening to all the versions of his theme alone, separate from the character, you can gather these attributes from the music by itself. When you pair the two together, though, you get this mediocre villain who is automatically 10 times better and more memorable purely because of the music. There's one last thing I want to point out about Kai that makes him just that much better.
Kai! Nice.
Now, if you didn't catch that, they take this relationship between Kai and his theme just a step further, showing us an interaction. He's grinding his weapon against the ground to the beat and off the beat. One grind on the beat, one grind off the beat, and then it repeats. Kai isn't the only villain to show interaction with their theme, though. Davy Jones is literally playing his song on the piano while action is going on board his ship. Electro has whispers in his music that describe his thoughts as Spider-Man's actions are misinterpreted by him.
Stay with me, Max!
You set me up.
No, I didn't set you up!
You lied to me.
No, I'm trying to help you. Let me help you!
And almost every single villain in the Disney movies have a song they themselves sing. Not counting the Disney movies, I really feel like this idea of connecting the villain and their theme isn't used enough. Even when used in the smallest amount, can mean so much more to the character. I can't stress enough how important it is to define your characters through music. It's just one extra thing to make your villain that much more memorable. And heroes and movie themes in general, I believe, are in a whole different category. Villains are only on screen for that small amount of time, and their goal is to make an imprint on you and the hero of the story. And heroes, on the other hand, are the main focus of the story. They're the ones that grow throughout the movie and have to overcome the obstacles and become triumphant in the end. Let me know if you'd like to see another video about hero themes or movie themes. I didn't even get to talk about video game villains in this video, and that's something that I'd really like to do later on. Subscribe if you'd like to see more videos like this. I post every week. And if you truly liked this video, I encourage you to like and comment what your favorite villain is and why. My name's Billy Vasquez, and this was Overture.